Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the Neo4j online meetup. Couple things before we get everyone started. For maximum visibility, we suggest that you set your resolution to 720 megapixel. You can adjust that on the bottom right of this video. If you have any questions while you're watching the video live, you can ask them on the right-hand side. There is a chat window. You can ask them right there. And if you have any questions after the live stream has ended, you're able to ask them on the community site. There's actually a thread where you can ask them directly to the presenter. And if you've enjoyed the presentation, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. And if you're interested in presenting in the future, you can also post about your project in the community site under the projects category or the content category. And just tell us about what you're working on, and then we would consider that's what we consider the talks for future online meetups. So I'm going to get us started. To introduce myself, I am Corinne Wallach. I am the community manager at Neo4j, and I am here with my colleague, Mark Needham. Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark. I work in our developer relations team in London, and in the time that Corinne was explaining to you about the community site, I've put a link for David's project on the side. So if you're watching afterwards and you have any questions, don't forget to ask them there, which I guess leaves us with our third person of the meetup, which is David. So I guess, David, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, guys. So my name is Dave Stevens. I'm a distinguished architect at DXC Technology, and I'm going to present the thinking why we've created this product called Digital Explorer using Neo today, and I'm going to sort of walk through some of the modules and some of the approaches that we've got and give a little bit of a demo as well. So that's the plan for this one. Okay. So let me share my screen. I've got a couple of slides, but I'm going to drag Mark across there. I'm going to drop out of these and show you some demos as well to actually see the platform. So just for your reference as well, we're actually delighted for working with Neo. Last year, this project also won the Digital Transformation Award at Graph Connect last year in New York. So it's kind of testament to the fact that how we've approached it within DXC to actually become digital ourselves and run this as an agile project. So there was kind of a lot of proof points, both in the foundational technology, what we were doing, but also how we implemented and delivered this project as well. So really pleased with that one. So just to let you guys know in terms of where I am, so I'm based in the UK. As I mentioned, I'm a distinguished architect at DXC, and I'm the product owner and architect of Digital Explorer, which I'm going to go through today. I'm based in the UK, and you've got my links there. You can click through those, or you can find them on the Neo4j community site as well. For those that aren't aware of who DXC are and why we've been looking at this problem, so DXC is approaching 2 years old. It was created as a result of the merger of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services and CSC to create a new outsourcing and digital transformation company to meet the new demands. So that's essentially who DXC are. And just some numbers for you in terms of the scale. So very large organization, and looking at that challenge of how is technology changing the landscape for our clients? How do we progress from data center migration, Office 365 migration? What does digital truly mean? So a lot of the energy at the start of the launch of DXC was really looking at what is digital? What is digital transformation, and how are we going to be relevant going forward? So a lot of the work that I've been doing within my team and across my colleagues, it's been looking at that and trying to understand that, which is why we've created Digital Explorer. So what I'm going to go through is sort of how we understand digital now and how we use that through a graph. And I'll call out some of the reference points as to why we're doing it with a graph and where we started as well. And I'm probably going to mention where we started at the end of my little summary of the modules which we have within our platform. But essentially, what we've created is a connected knowledge platform to allow DXC to understand the technology shifts and then progress that through to a set of delivered outcomes. And I got introduced to Neo probably 2.5, 3 years ago. We were looking at solution modeling, architecture, technology modeling, and how an Archimate model could be actually represented as data, and hitting that wall very early on that I can't do this in a relational database. I've got to have something different. So that kind of light bulb moment of modeling and being able to represent things as they truly are really sort of accelerated mine and my colleagues' thinking in terms of the potential of what we could actually do with this. And I'll step through this, and you'll see, this a lot of the things when I was learning about graph modeling is, it is the whiteboard. The whiteboard becomes the data model. And for those that are familiar with graph modeling, you'll see that there's a bit more behind our data model as I walk through this, but the majority of what our data model is what I'm going to show on this single slide as we progress through that actual journey within our platform. So I mentioned, so for us within DXC, it's really, really key for us now to understand how technology is shifting and changing the outcomes across industry. No longer data centers. It's all about technology brings value directly to the line of business. So for us, we've got to be able to understand, what does that technology mean in the context of each industry? So we've got to understand blockchain in banking means this, and blockchain in retail means this, and in supply chain it means this. So our first module that we have and we've modeled within Graph is that foundational set of reference points for us in terms of that digital landscape. So we essentially have a very large set of data and many, many industry use cases around key technology shifts. So we can then apply that and understand the level of maturity of blockchain, of augmented reality, of robotic process automation, all of the sort of the buzzwords that are around digital. We're able to distill that down to meaningful use cases in the context of an industry, but also the value chain within that industry. So we take it a step further in the sense of, if we've got augmented reality, we can then shape that around, well, this in automotive design, its use cases are A. In automotive manufacture, its use cases are B, C, and D. And in aftermarket, it's D, E, F. So we're able to really specify and build up a very rich model of those disruptors. And that's really, really powerful. It allows us to relate to the client, their line of business, their strategic intent. That's good, but we've got to take it further. We've got to be able to then actually, so we've got this foundational knowledge, this kind of unconstrained to our current portfolio, our current partners, but actually, how do we now take that forward and start to truly relate that to the client and our future clients? So what we do, so the next module that we have within our platform is a way where people can upload information about the client or refer to information about the client and start getting some indicators around their digital strategy. So we can take an investor report from a client, we can take an RFP from a client, and we can very quickly map that against our trends graph and call out, for this client, these things are relevant. They're looking at these areas, and we progress that forward into a digital roadmap or a digital blueprint. So we're able to analyze the client's requirements using our graph, using some sort of natural language processing in terms of matching and building some logic and insights around that, and progress that very quickly to create a very rich digital blueprint. It's essentially a roadmap. So within that, when we start to capture the KPIs, the client goals, the relevant enabling technology that can allow them to reach that goal. So we're using the power of the information to progress forward to that. And the ultimate output of that digital blueprint are a list of ideas that have been framed based on that analytics that we've applied to the client's intent, to the industry use cases that we have. And then from there, our account teams can take those ideas and then start mapping in, well, these DXC offerings are a fit here. These partners are a fit here, because we've also ingested our offerings and our partner capabilities against that same foundational set of technology disruptor information. So we're able to easily find this idea is seeking to address these goals, these KPIs, needs these enabling pieces of technology. Very, very simple connection through to these offerings, these partners can come together and create the final required solution. And it's that solution model, which is actually where we started within this project when we were looking at solution architecture and Archimate modeling. So that solution is already pre-populated with the business motivations from that flow of the idea, from the blueprint to the client strategic papers and intent insight that we've captured, through to the functional layers where we're starting to capture these building blocks are coming together to actually to deliver this solution. So this is not rocket science in itself, in terms of, this is a pretty standard approach to, understand what the client wants, shape that, create some insights and some ideas, deliver a solution. What we're able to achieve here is really connect that end to end through the whole platform, both for a single account, but then for many other accounts as well. So we've got a couple of things I just wanted to call out here in terms of some of the algorithms and approaches that we're using within our platform. So that first part around that shift from understanding to shaping, do we have a smart document reader? I mentioned that we can drop in a PDF or a PowerPoint or an Excel file, and it will read it and extract out that digital information. It will span across the graph. That then gets us into a number of areas where we're using the recommendation engine approaches. So as I read in the client's document, I can already get insights in terms of which people have been writing about these trends, which people have been delivering solutions against these trends that the client is looking for. Might want to bring them into my team. And then also, which solutions do we already have as well? And that progresses forward into when we're actually building the more structured roadmap. So if I'm building my roadmap, I get line of sight left and right within my industry area, but also up and down around adjacent industries. So our recommendation engine spans across the full graph. So if I'm building my roadmap and I drop in blockchain, but my industry is in healthcare, I can immediately start getting recommendations around, well, other accounts, when they started referencing blockchain in healthcare in their roadmap, they started including these other enabling technologies and brought in these people, and these solutions could also become part of that. So that level of connectivity is becoming more and more sort of complete as that goes through. So we connect that through the platform end to end, and we just take that across the board with everything that we're doing. I started with the use case around blockchain and its relevance across different industries, augmented reality and its relevance across different industries. That applies at every single point within that life cycle. We can find people, we can find solutions, we can connect across things, and it allows us internally to get a completely different view in terms of investment potential. We can look at communities of interest within our graph. So we can very quickly analyze our roadmaps and identify common ideas that the roadmaps are calling out, that may be in completely different regions, in completely different industries, but we're able to use similarity matching to actually identify and say, this cluster of 10 ideas, 15 ideas, 80% the same thing. They're talking about the same technology. They have the same goals and aspirations. So we're really able to leverage the power of the graph to allow us to do that. And that just then accelerates forward, as I mentioned, in terms of, well, once I've got that idea, got to deliver against it. How do we build the solution? What solution building blocks are available to me? So that connectivity just extends all around. It's not a single thread. It truly is. We really are it's a mesh of information which we've created. So that's essentially it. Those simple sort of 4 modules that we have connect all of that information together and allow us to do things in a different way and see things in a different way, and sort of remove the silos that we have, particularly in large organizations sometimes as well. So we can break down those actual barriers. So what if we got it's available? Now, the other thing I wanted to mention as well, that we have open sourced this as well. So our data model is out there, and we will share all of the links for this as well. And you can also access this, and you can have a look. You'll get a limited set of content. You won't see all solutions. You won't see roadmaps, for example, but you'll get a taste of what's inside there. But we've taken that graph approach and that connected approach together with our digital methodology, our digital blueprint methodology. And we've added in a number of sort of lenses or views or essentially applications on top of that. The first one that we have at the very top is playbooks, and it's really there just to allow our teams to create interactive ebooks based on the content that's available to them. So they can very quickly create a presentation, essentially, but pulling in relevant trends from their client's industry. Now, what are the top 3 trends to talk about in manufacturing? What are my best reference solutions in manufacturing? Pull that information up very, very quickly, create these interactive books. But then we get into the real sort of engine and the working parts of the platform. Trends is very much our foundational reference point. So it's that catalog of information. I'll show you some views of that in a moment. And then we get into actually running that process through. We've got to understand our client's intent. So there we have workspaces, real-time online collaboration of content. So I can create a workspace, I can invite my colleagues, we can all upload, throw documents into that, it'll read them, it'll extract out the digital relevance of that information, and then we can use that to shape and understand our client's intent. And we then transfer that information across into a roadmap, where we can then really start to focus in on, okay, this is the ultimate goal. These are the building blocks we need to position out. These are the ideas which we're going to have. Again, online, collaborative. Essentially, if you sort of think of post-it notes, being able to drag and drop post-it notes, and then you always looking at the graph, always adjusting those recommendations in the background. And then the final part is solutions. The ideas progress from the roadmap, create solutions. So we capture not just the final solution viewpoint, but we also capture the concept, the prototype, the pilot solutions as well. So we create multiple viewpoints of a solution. Excuse me, have a drink. And then at the very bottom of this, we have a graph explorer. We're using a lot of D3 for our visualization, and I'll show you some views of that in a moment. And it's all powered by Neo, so all of this information is connected using Neo4j, and essentially, so those are our main modules. We've also done a couple of little side projects that we have around sort of trying to sort of challenge ourselves internally. It's not shown on this slide, but we use Workplace internally, so Facebook at work, and a couple of the guys, one guy in Asia, one of my developers in Poland, well, let's create a bot. Let's create a bot inside Workplace that we can have a conversation with and say, hey, tell me about the latest solutions in this industry, or I'm interested in blockchain, and you can have a conversation, and the bot can join active conversations within Workplace as well. So just a way that we're trying to sort of use that information in different ways and engage with users in different ways as well. I want to show you actually a couple of examples, just to give you some visualization and some ideas of what we've actually got. So I was going to run through a few. I want to show just some of the level of the connectivity that we have within the platform. So I'm just going to drag this across. I think guys can see it. Mark shout if it's not. I think it should be. I'm just going to log in. I'm going to log in with my credentials. Bear with me. I'm in. I'm going to come back to Workspaces. So I'm going to give you a demo of Workspace as well. But I just want to give you one example in terms of, I mentioned that the connectedness of our information, which we have. So we have this Graph Explorer module on top of this. and it just allows us to show and represent some of that information in different ways. And we can view all of that information based on a different lens, essentially. But I want to just give you an idea around some of those industry use cases. So this view here will just show us those trends, those technology trends that have the most connected industry use cases, and I can then expand on augmented reality. Let me just get rid of all the others and just bring in augmented reality. So what we can see here, shuffle it about a bit, come on, D3, catch up. So what we've got in the inner circle are just some of the solutions that we have available for that trend. And these could be concepts from DXC Labs, these could be solutions from our digital transformation centers, they could be DXC Plus partner solutions. So they are proof points that are real solutions that are delivered against augmented reality. Then you've also got some people references within there. Don't worry if you can't read it. It might be intentional in terms of some of those areas. And then the outer rings we're getting here are then actually the relationship through to the industries. So we can see, I'll zoom in on this side. So you can see we've got banking, we've got oil and gas, we've got high tech, we've got retail. So you can get a sense there in terms of the amount of industry use cases which we have, and then we've got the various use cases being referenced in that central one. So it's just a graphical way of representing how just one single trend has that amount of connectivity across our graph at the moment. And so that's one, and there's a number of other views which we can apply. So I just wanted to go to show you that one. I thought it'd be really interesting. I'm going to just pull us back into the slides a second. So just give you some context in terms of a day in the life of Digital Explorer at DXC, and what we're really reaching out and achieving with this. So bit of a busy slide, lots of words, but I'll summarize it. It's essentially a different view of the slide which I was presenting previously, but I'm going to show two parts of this within a demo. So the first one is, okay, so we're going to a client, or we're looking at a client, we're working with a client. We want to be able to understand their digital intent. So we've got that Workspace module. I'm going to upload some information. It's going to start making recommendations for me. I'm going to show you that. And then the other part is then actually I want to then take that information and build a roadmap. And I want to create a roadmap that's sort of interactive, engaging, and also highlighting certain things for me as well. And I want to show you those pieces as well. And I may show a little bit of how we're using the Archimate notation in terms of representing a solution, and how we sort of show that as well. And how we've essentially honored Archimate but simplified it, trying to hide that complexity around Archimate and its various relationships, mainly so that we don't have 2-hour phone calls talking about, is it this relationship type or is it this relationship type? Who cares? It's just a relationship within Archimate. So that's what I'm going to go through. So I'm going to start with workspaces. I want to give you an example of that. So I'm going to come back to this one, close this one down. I'm going to create a completely empty workspace. I'm going to call this the Neo4j Meetup and create this one. Now, what I've got over here on my other screen, I'll just drag this into view for you, is I've just got I've got some sample content here. This is all DXC information, the recent investor report information that's out there on dxc.com, and there's another pieces here, but this is the type of information that we'd be looking for in terms of a client engagement. So I've got an empty space, and I've got my catalog here at the bottom. There's not really much intelligence here. It's just it's just randomly thrown in some stuff based on nothing. And if I click on suggested content, but there's no results because I have no content. Other things I can do here, I can invite my colleagues to join this space, and we could then collaborate on this one. But what I want to do here is I'm just going to add a document. I'm just going to pick up one. This is a general. This is a white paper from our CTO around digital directions. So I'm just going to drop that one in. So it's a PDF. And just get that one read and analyzed. And then it's going to look at that document, and very quickly there, it's just started to identify key technology shifts, but also some industry insight as well. So did it mention certain industries? Did it mention certain value chains within those industries as well? So just to bring in some content. And so as I'm going through this exercise, I may add in maybe a banking paper as well, it's starting to just build up that view. Now, for those that are, we don't have this yet, get my guys to work with, for those that are aware of and aware of the graph model or graph modeling behind it, what we've got here is we've got the two attachments here in the middle, and in the background we have maintained and created relationships to say this document, so DevOps, was added because it was matched in this document, but we also keep the occurrence count as well. So we maintain the number of matches which it's made. So you can see there, I can start to build up very quickly a viewpoint of a client, and we can change the sort of, we can sort by the matching count, so we can put some priority. I can remove the grouping, so overall I can see banking, I dropped in the banking paper, was mentioned 42 times within that, and technology example. So we can very quickly read that document and match it across that full graph. And here I'm not just looking at the trends, I'm also looking at our information model that we have around industries. So we also model and document industries and industry value chains as well. So from there.
So David, quick question. So is that when you import that PDF document, do you create a node representing the document, and then you're pulling apart those other pieces of information as nodes as well, or what is it? How does that translate?
At the moment, we're just creating a node for that document.
Okay.
We've got some early prototypes where we have actually been breaking down the document. I haven't mentioned it yet, but part of when we're using WordNet to power our search across the platform. So we're doing similarity matching using WordNet as part of our graph. Where we want to go with this was released 2-3 weeks ago. So this is very early within our development cycle. But the intent is that we want to be able to then take the content, do better matching, use WordNet, use other ontology models around technology, for example, industry ontologies, to pour that in. So that is the intent. So at the moment, if I just go back to the grouping, these two cards here represent the attachment. So there is a node there, and that node would then have a relationship back to insurance industry, insurance value or payments value chain, so that we build up that graph model around that document. I can share some pieces. I'll put it into the thread around this project, around some of the other earlier reference points around WordNet, more early views of what we're looking at in terms of natural language processing, in terms of not just word counting and word matching, but identification of key themes, for example. So we're going there. It's we'll get there. We'll get there, and that's the beauty of what we've got here as well.
Is your idea that you then, or do you currently store like the WordNet taxonomy or whatever in Neo4j as well, and then you're connecting the document to the different parts of that?
Not at the moment in this context here. We don't connect it to WordNet, but certainly in terms of trends and solutions, we do connect the full solution model, and I'll show you that does connect to WordNet. So that does allow us to do much more powerful searching of that. So office and building to city, etc. So we're able to do that. So we have WordNet in the background of our graph, and that's fully modeled inside Neo as well.
Cool. Okay.
So I've loaded up some documents. Still not much intelligence here on the bottom, but what I can now do, if I switch to the suggested content, that's now going to search across that and is going to give me some insight. Ignore me, I'm the tester and developer of the platform, so I always appear. But we can now start to see some other people that have some relevance to the content up here. And if I start sort of just highlight over that, I can see Andrew Dare has written 5 of the business trends and 3 of the pure technology trends that have been spotted here. And it just goes on, and you can start to see Kavi's got 6 solutions that are delivering against this. So you can we pull in some context as to why was that person being recommended. And if I just switch off people, I can then start looking at solutions. And again, here I start to get some insight in terms of what is that solution. And Again, I can then filter that down. So that's, I'm only interested in banking capital market solutions. So my list has become much narrower now in terms of the potential recommendations. So it's really a way of our teams being able to find something and say, well, actually, State Bank of Mauritius, I'm going to add that to the workspace and have that as a reference point, and then the team can then start to discuss around that and use that. So so you can sort of see that drag and drop nature which we have, so they can pull things in and use that information that way. So that's workspaces, and we can do some other things. We can do sizing, just to draw some attention to certain areas, so we can really sort of focus in on pieces. So I think my guys are on the team, and if they are, I know they love D3. Maybe I'm going to get beat up tomorrow on our stand-up call. So that's what we're doing in terms of workspaces. And then that next progression is actually, so we've captured this information. Now I want to build a roadmap on this. So we have a number of modules you can see here. So I'm going to step into roadmaps, and a lot of the same thinking, the same sort of approach, both in terms of style and also the matching that we're doing within Neo, applies here as well. So I'm just going to call up, I've got a train I created. I did cheat a little bit here just to save you some of the laborious nature of seeing me document some of these pieces. So what we have here is this is often the outline of a digital blueprint or transformation map for a client. And we have some customization which we can make. I'm just going to step into the actual canvas itself, and you'll see. So again, kind of looks like the workspaces thing, but we've got sections. So here, and we allow the teams to customize this, so they can be very formal. They can say Q1, Q2, Q3, or they can be non-committal and say near term, mid-term, long-term. But you can start to build out different roadmaps for different parts of the business. So here, we're aligning again to those value chains for our industries, and we can start to see, I've dropped in a few here. If I look at manufacturing, I've got digital twin, procurement, I've just got digitized end-to-end supply chain. So from this one, again, using the connections that we have and the insights that we have, I can switch from the full catalog, which I could search against, but I'm interested in actually, in this industry, this client I've put into industrial manufacturing, which other trends are other accounts talking about when they have digitized supply chain in their roadmap? Then I can start to build that in and start to drop in new trends. And every time I drop in a new trend, my suggestions are altering. So it's dynamic, it's real time in terms of bringing that through. And then ultimately, they can take that and they can share. There's some finer detail in terms of some of the parameters and the additional information that they can specify in with this. So one thing that we're doing here in terms of the context of the data model is, when I drop in a trend here, I'm not dropping in the master trend. This trend becomes unique to my roadmap. So I'm essentially creating a new node within my roadmap for end-to-end supply chain, but it has a relationship back to the master. So we always know. So if I rename this to some completely different, my Meetup trend, if that was the context to which that trend was being talked about with the client, it's relevant in the roadmap. But we've also maintained that relationship back to end-to-end supply chain. So we're able to then look at that dispersal and the occurrence of that as well. And also using that relationship back to the master to then also start to do some community analytics around the near neighbors of that trend as well. So we're able to sort of get into the real detail of what else is being referenced within that. And it creates sort of various sort of views of that in terms of the output, something that we call a transformation map. So classic summary diagram or sunburst diagram, sort of positioning against that. We have some interactive tables, so we can change some of the values here. So what our teams are doing here is they're taking that roadmap information and just starting to represent it in terms of which area of the client's business is going to impact. Is it their product line, services, processes, or their overall business model? and is it an incremental step change for them? So it's kind of that risk ambition profiling within it. But they can also change the dimensions here. So we really sort of allow them to take the output and tune it for the conversation. So they can switch off certain value chains within that report. They can change it to a timeline view. So they can use that information. And the intent is really here, it's to create digital content. It's to create conversation and not to go in with a canned presentation of a prepared roadmap and say, this is the answer we think you're looking for. This is interactive, dynamic, changing information based on the conversation, and that insight that it then gives and that the suggestions that it can then make are also then real time as well. So they're sort of clicked in here is so based on the content of this roadmap, similar sort of type of, it's very simple recommendations here in terms of the query, but it's okay based on that. So based on this roadmap, which solutions are available? Actually, I'm interested in finding some demos for this client. I want to go and show them some demos where we've used augmented reality. Maybe I'm only interested in the areas that I've marked as focus. There weren't any, damn. But which are marked as focus, I found some. So we've got some solutions around digital twin that we can start pulling in. So it then sort of just progresses through, and we can capture ideas, and when we capture ideas, we can specify it's going to meet these goals. So we're connecting all of that information together as we flow. So if you've got cast your mind back to the slide, you get an idea of the digital sort of fingerprint of a client that we're building out here in terms of how this actually progresses. We do allow them to update attachments. Don't really like any. They can. We don't like them doing that because we could read it. I suppose like the Workspace module, but we want smart information, and then we present it as a summary. I'm going to sort of switch this down to a simple view. So sort of a one-page summary based on that roadmap. So we can see here the overall goals that the client may have, their value chains that are of relevance, and we've got ideas, and we can highlight, well, this idea is seeking to address these goals, is relevant to these value chains. So just different ways of representing that information for a client. So that's sort of how that sort of shapes out within that sort of, I'm going to step back to my slide. That's kind of that sort of within this area here, within that middle ground here, we've uploaded a document, we've used the power of the information that we have, we've used the ease at which we can create those queries and rapidly release that capability into our application as well. So that's sort of just going through some of those. I'll go back. I want to show you our solution model and how we use that. I just want to sort of give you sort of some idea in terms of the scale which we have within that. So it is a fairly controlled data set, and we do apply governance to that, and you can ask, I will put the link up so you can have a look through the schema. But one thing that we have done within the Neo schema is we have overall 92 labels, but 29 of them are actually not live data. They're just meta nodes. So we're using that approach to ensure that we have data integrity, and we can understand what our potential taxonomies are that we want to use, and data sets and data dictionaries that we want to use, but they only move across as real nodes once they have been used. So we can manage our data dictionaries very, very efficiently in that manner. Without WordNet, we're about 325,000 nodes, we're around about 700,000 relationships. That, when we pull in WordNet, that just goes through the roof because I think WordNet probably has 200,000 plus nodes, but it probably has 200, 300,000 plus relationships as well. So WordNet is sitting in the background for us. And as Mark was asking, when we add a solution, we connect it to WordNet. When we add a trend, we connect it to WordNet. We're looking at how we're going to do that when we're reading documents as well. I've got a couple of blog posts that I've been looking at that in terms of natural language processing and the potential that then brings to the additional value within that. So that's kind of our base sort of data set and framing of that. Overall, in terms of what our users see and what we have, so we've got just over 1,400 industry and technology use cases documented, currently at 150 roadmaps, which have generated 290 ideas and we have 900 solutions documented as well. So a growing set of data there as well. Apologies, need another drink. I was lucky this wasn't last week, because I had man flu last week, so I'm recovering from that. So that's just in terms of a scale of what we have. I want to come back and I want to conclude with just sort of showing you some of the things that we have around solutions, because it's where we started, and we don't just rely on that end-to-end flow through the platform to capture solutions. We've had internal events, and we've given away swag bags of things. We've harvested solutions as well. So we pull that in, but we're very aware that we've got to be able to capture a solution and understand its value, so that the reason it's captured actually brings value, and that we can actually identify, its potential reuse and its potential business value for others as well, either as a complete solution or being able to break it down and creating something new. So I'm going to step back into the platform, and I'm actually going to show you a playbook. It's a playbook about Digital Explorer, but it'll get us into and show you a little bit part of that solution model. So probably could have just used this one to present what Digital Explorer was, but I wanted to show you a few other bits and pieces. Just going to step through this. So blah blah blah. This is what Digital Explorer is, and then we get into the actual solution itself. So here's a very sort of classical table view of our solution. So we have a general description, those motivations, those are the business, those are the technology trends. You see that sort of hook across, that link across there. And then we've got key capabilities. And key capabilities there, we also build up a catalog, so anybody can reuse and we can understand what's coming across. And then we just present that. It's a very, very simple model, but just to give someone a solution on a page using Archimate notation, but we also block it out in terms of certain areas. So what we're applying within DXC is an architectural canvas, so that we can very quickly validate through automation, is this solution complete? This solution has nothing in the security space. That's going to prove a problem. So we're using that solution modeling to really be able to sort of look at and validate a solution at a high level, but that progression through is where we're pushing that, so we can see where it's being hosted, etc., etc. So that's what just gives you a view of that, and you can then click through and have a look through. I just wanted to show you really quickly. I haven't shown many graph models. I'm going to show, so then that's how that then looks in graph as well. So you can get the full information about that solution as well. So we're stepping across the platform. So that's pretty much our project end to end. That's how we're using Neo to realize that. And I was speaking to before we went live. I don't think I know anymore how I would even model that in Oracle. All of that level of connectivity and the relationships and the ease of being able to add a new relationship and understand and get value from that, and traverse multiple paths through relationships. So some of the sort of the current thinking that we're looking at is around using community detection algorithms and jumping across from one start point to an end point, and looking at those common ideas across roadmaps. So I personally don't think I could have done this without Neo. So there's a couple of links here for you. You can get onto the site. Please have a look around. Drop us a reply on the community site. Reach out to me. Have a look through. There's a load of videos out there that you can get to on the site. So if you want to listen to my West Country tones again, you can have a look through our release notes and our videos. There's a lot of content out there, and everything that we have as part of our sort of outsourcing, our open sourcing of this. All of the specifications are managed, and there's only one source for me in terms of where I publish to, and that's on github.com. So you can have a look through that. So you can look at the overall data model, the individual data models, the labels, the properties that we have within that, and also some of the other aspects of what we're doing within the platform. So have a look through, have a dig into it, and I'd be absolutely delighted with any feedback, any suggestions, any questions about this. So with that, Mark, Karina, I'll hand back over to you. If there's any other questions in the chat, let me unshare my screen and you can see that I am still here. You are sharing. Right, there we go.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I don't see, there's a lot of people chatting in the chat window. They were just kind of saying hello and everything. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Sometimes the video is a couple seconds delayed, so sometimes it takes a minute to get the questions. But we can also make it available for people to give questions and or feedback on the community site, which is good. So I'll post the link again in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, are welcome to directly in the community site. So I think that's good. I think it's it for now.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck in your future talks in Madrid next week.
Yes, yeah, looking forward to that. Yes, yeah. So if you're at Graph Tour next week in Madrid, you can get version 2 of this.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. All right.
And big shout out to all our friends that came to the meetup today. We have like big Neo4j family reunion. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. And we hope to see you guys next week.
Thank you.